Oh my goodness. Seriously? Okay, we're streaming. I didn't know that. So we're streaming. This is crazy. My stream started. This was not supposed to happen this way, but it is what it is. Just started at 20 something minutes ago. That's alright. That's cool. So let's see if we can get this to. Yep. That'll do. That'll do. It's slightly, let's see. Yep. That'll do. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Interesting. All right. So this was not the way how the stream was supposed to start, but my phone just suddenly started streaming. I guess I must have accidentally pressed a button or something. So we are streaming right now. I am what you need. You're watching my channel, and we're going to talk about comments that Demetrius Andrade made after the fight, as well as we're going to talk about the future of both fighters. And it's going to be very interesting because of a number of factors, but we're going to get into it right now. Now, before I do that, I always give praise and glory to the Most High God. By the way, shout out to this viewer that always, as soon as I start the stream, they're there watching my stream. Shout out to that viewer. I don't know who you are, but you constantly watch my stuff. I don't know if you may be a content provider or whatever, but you are always there when I start to do a stream. So that's kind of cool. Praise and glory be to the Most High God. This is my first video for today, so I'm always going to give tribute to the Most High God once I start a stream on here. By the way, you can also donate to my stream. Of course, the donation link via PayPal is in the link above. And basically, that link is because I don't get paid by YouTube. So I just want you guys to know, if you value the content and you think you want to make a donation, there is where you put it. I have the link right there. Okay, let's get into it. So today my scripture comes from John chapter 9, and it's very, very short piece of scripture. It's John chapter 9, verses 1, 2, 3. Let's go. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man that had been blind from his birth. Rabbi, his disciples asked him, why was this man born blind? Was it as a result of his own sins or those of his parents? Jesus replied, it was not because of his sins or his parents' sins. He was born blind so the power of God could be seen in him. All of us must carry out our tasks quickly that are assigned to us by the one who sent us, because there's little time left before the night falls and all work comes to an end. A lot of times we see things before people and we always say, well, this man must have done something, to deserve what they get. We always think that there must be a consequence to an action. And there are consequences to actions. But sometimes in life, things just happen. Things just happen. In the story of Job, it wasn't anything Job did why, ill fortune came to him. But that's what a lot of people around him. And this is just a natural tendency of human beings to think that bad things happen to people because they did bad things. Reciprocity. Hold on one second. Be right back. Okie dokie, I'm back. So it's not always that. The case is not always that bad things happen to people because they did something bad, right? And so for any individual out here I want you to understand something. That sometimes bad things happen to you and you wonder, where in my past did I do something wrong? Or did I? Sometimes what's happening to you has nothing to do with your past. It more or less has to do with just the way the world is. Things happen. And so, sometimes we want to look within ourselves to blame ourselves. Don't blame yourself. And even if it is something as a direct result of one of your actions, and you know that, again, you take accountability and you move forward. So I just wanted to share that scripture before I get to what Demetrius Andrade said. Okay? What Demetrius Andrade said. So, after the fight, Demetrius Andrade said a lot of stuff. And I just want to go through some of what he said here. I have it in front of me. Andrade said this at the end of the fight. He said, I thought I did everything I needed to do to get the bigger man off of me. David is definitely a hell of a fighter, Andrade. That's what he said. Nobody was willing to get in the ring with him. Same for me. I tried to become a 3-divisional world champion. That's not far-fetched. David was the man today. Congratulations to him and his family. We move on and we keep on pressing. And this is really great stuff right there. When they asked him how the fight went, he said, I've had long layoffs. I was trying to get my time in. I did what I had to do. Training camp was great. I just found the bigger man. I just fought the bigger man. I'm not going to say he was the better, more skillful man, but he was the bigger man. I tried to go to a new weight class. Congratulations to him. I'll be back. I just got to go back to the drawing board, work on my body a little bit more, and I think we'll be right back at it. On the 4th round knockdown, he said, listen, David's just a big dude. He throws some tough shots. He's a hell of a fighter as well. I thought my skills would have overwhelmed him, but his size and strength definitely got the better hand today. How good is David Benavidez? It's not that he's a greater, more skillful fighter than me. I'm moving up to the 3rd division, trying to be a world champion. I came to fight the bigger man. Nobody's willing to get in the ring with him. Nobody's willing to get in the ring with me. I showed balls. I showed what I've got. I put it on the line. This is my 2nd fight at 168 pounds, and I did what I had to do today. All right. So that's what boy Demetrius Andrade said. My boy, I still love him. Still love him as a fighter. He's going to grow and he's going to do his thing as a fighter, and hopefully he gets more bigger fights. At 168, there's a lot more options. And a lot more people, I believe, will be willing to fight him after this fight. And he did fight his butt off. And he's right. David Benavidez was significantly bigger than him. It's a different division. It's a different weight class. But what I disagree with Demetrius Andrade on is saying that, and I will quote, he said, I just fought the bigger man. I'm not going to say he was better. Well, you got to say he's better, because boxing is based on what you do. It's not based on what you say or your potential. It's based on what you do. So the better man won that night. That's just what it is. That's why you get in the ring and fight. So I disagree with him on saying he can't say that David Benavidez was better than him. He was better than him on that night. And that settles that. That's why you fight the fights. He was the better guy. So you have to say he's better. But he says he's not going to say he was better, but he didn't leave it there. He said the more skillful man, but he was the bigger man. Well, truth be told, he was the bigger man. That's true. He was the stronger man. That's true. He was the more powerful man. That's true as well. Would I say he was more skillful than Demetrius Andrade? I'll say this. He was well prepared for what was ahead of him. So even if Demetrius Andrade was more skillful than him, which we would argue that's the case, it didn't really matter, because David Benavidez was prepared for what Demetrius Andrade was going to bring to the table to get that win. That's the important thing. See, you can be more skillful than a guy, but if you don't have a good game plan like that person has, and that person hasn't studied you to get a good game plan, it really doesn't matter that you're more skillful, right? So he might get that one. He might be more skillful than David Benavidez. It's very possible because he can do way more things, I believe, than David Benavidez. Is his skills as honed as David Benavidez? That's a totally different story. But he might be the most skillful man. So he then goes on to say, listen, David is just a big dude. He throws some tough shots. He's a hell of a fighter as well. I thought my skills would have overwhelmed him, but his size and strength definitely got the better hand today. The thing about it was, and Demetrius Andrade can go back and check this out, right? Because I always try to be I'm not trying to throw shade at nobody. I'm not trying to wreck people's careers, right? This fight changed the moment David Benavidez landed that straight right hand to Demetrius Andrade's solar plexus and pushed him back with it. Because David can lead with either hand. And in this case, he led with his right hand against the southpaw. That's the most effective weapon. And he threw the right hand straight to, he was targeting Demetrius Andrade's body a lot in the fight. And that's what broke down Demetrius Andrade. And him just being, as Demetrius Andrade said, physically stronger, physically bigger, naturally bigger, not necessarily the most devastating puncher at 168, but just his size and everything was what Demetrius Andrade could not withstand. He simply couldn't withstand. He could dish it out, and he was dishing it out with some serious power, which had David Benavidez at certain times rethinking how he would, but he didn't. The problem with what Andrade did, and it was no fault of his, when you get hit with a lead right like that, it saps energy out of you almost instantaneously. So it's not really his fault that he couldn't change up his game plan after getting touched like that, and say, you know what, I need to kind of move a little bit more and size this guy up, circle him a couple times, like how Canelo would circle a very powerful opponent like Golovkin or like Sergey Kovalev, or like Danny Jacobs. Canelo circles the ring around you first. He doesn't come straight at you. He's circling the ring to find out where's the distance. He's gathering his information. What do you do best? How you gonna close the distance? So that's probably what Demetrius Andrade should have done. But he never really got the opportunity because David Benavidez went right in there and started and landed something on him, and sucked some energy out of him almost immediately, and then went on the attack on him when he realized he was weak. So Andrade never got to assess. He never got to get his timing together. He never got, you see. And yes, Andrade usually attacks you, and he was geared up to attack to attack David Benavidez. But once David Benavidez landed that straight right hand, and he reacted the way he did, it's pretty much done. And so Demetrius Andrade made a quick calculation in his mind. All right, I need to fight this guy off. All right? He had two choices. He could excessively move around the ring, knowing that he just got hit with a tough shot that took some of the air out of him, or he could try and walk to David Benavidez and launch an assault himself. Now, the thing I missed from Demetrius Andrade, I didn't see it too much, was keeping that tight guard to press the attack. So I didn't see a whole lot of that. I saw him launch a lot of attacks, the sweeping left hands to go around the guard, and some straight lefts up the center and the right hands. But I didn't really, and then he tried to pivot around and catch David Benavidez as he was turning, but David Benavidez would dip to get under the shot as they were turning. So David Benavidez kind of studied him. You could tell he knew, okay, he's coming with a shot right here. And then when he tried to clinch to stop the action, David Benavidez was working. And he was working too, don't get me wrong. They were both working in the clinch, but David's shots was just stronger. You know what fight reminds me, what this reminded me of? And it was a gamble by Demetrius Andrade. He probably knew this was a losing battle. Once you start going toe-to-toe with a guy that's physically stronger than you, physically bigger than you, probably punches harder than you, maybe not, but you have a difficulty because you can't get him off of you. by physically trying to rough him up. You can't um you can't outgun him because his artillery, he could probably take your shots better than you could take his. And then on top of that, you can't really lock him up because he's physically stronger than you, so he can break the clinch and keep on working in it. So Demetrius Andrade's best bet was to actually fight on the outside of David Benavidez for a bit and come in and out, attack him in and out. That would have been his best bet, which is something that Caleb Plant did. But here's the thing. His legs were kind of gone with that first right hand that went to his body. He's 35 years old. And so to make that quick adjustment, plus try to get your time and everything on track, is quite a lot. So he made a split decision. I could tell he made a split decision in his mind. I'm going to launch an all-out attack on this guy. I might get hit, I might get clipped, but I'm going down in a blaze of glory. So I think that's what he decided. He decided he was going to fight David Benavidez. And then when he could, he would pivot around him and keep him turning and try and fight him. But it became more difficult for him to do because his feet wasn't really cooperating. Because David Benavidez was he hit him with some left hooks. He hit him with all kinds of things. And anytime David caught him, still, once he froze up, David started launching his attack. And what Demetrius didn't do was counter that attack effectively, And he tried, but he was taking a lot of punishment. And even when he bullied David Benavidez, when he got him to the ropes and he was bullying him and stuff, he was still getting hit with shots. So it was like, it was. But he did put up a better resistance than, in my opinion, he put up a better resistance than Caleb Plant. He put up a better resistance than what's the kid's name? Just now, it'll come to me. David, the 160 pounder that moved up to 168 to fight him. David, come on, somebody help me out here. David, what was his name? He fought Gennady Golovkin. He fought Billy Joe Saunders. David, what is his name? From Canada. I can't remember his name for nothing right now. Hold on, I'm gonna get him. Fought GGG as well. I'm gonna tell you in a minute. I just can't remember his last name. It was David. He was a world champion. I think he was the IBF world champion. David Lemieux. Right, David Lemieux. So David Lemieux didn't put up as good a fight as Demetrius Andrade, right? It was an exciting fight, but Demetrius Andrade was just a smaller guy. Now, having said that, let's talk about the future of David Benavidez, and let's talk about the future of Demetrius Andrade. Let's start with Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade, I believe, I think he has a good future at 168 pounds. He would have Caleb Plant he could face, Jamal Charlo he could face, possibly even Canelo, maybe if Canelo stays at 168, especially with the loss that he got. Who else we got at 168 that's interesting? We got David Morrell, that's at 168. So all of these options are available to him, just like the same for David Benavidez. David Benavidez can face David Morrell. That would be a good fight. David Morrell lacks experience, but he is sort of a world champion, kind of like David Benavidez. They got this secondary title. I think David Benavidez has the WBC. I think David Morrell has the WBA. Right? David Benavidez has David Morrell. There's the Charlo brother that, he could probably fight if Charlo moves up in weight. I think Charlo will more want to ease into 168. Acclimatize first before he goes into a fight with a guy like David Benavidez, but still, he would be an option on the table. You also have the Canelo fight. Now, a lot of people saying Canelo should face David Benavidez next. I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, he proved himself. He fought a quality opponent. And so he should get the Canelo fight. So I don't have a problem with that. They also were talking about David Benavidez going up to 175. And Dimitri Bivol's name was mentioned. They were talking about the sparring sessions with Bivol and David Benavidez. And then they talked about possibly Artur Beterbiev, him facing Artur Beterbiev. So they're mentioning all these names as possible names David Benavidez could face. All right, now I want to just say this, and they saying David Benavidez probably could beat all of them, and Canelo should stay away from David Benavidez. You shouldn't face David Benavidez. Okay, so let's address that. Let's address that. Oh, hey, Lonnie B tried to throw himself in the mix as well. Lonnie B, shout out to Lonnie B. All right, let's address this and let's just put this in the right context. David Benavidez did beat Demetrius Andrade. Nobody's saying that. Okay, very good fighter. Okay, but I think you guys are going y'all are getting a little carried away with the win. Okay, what I mean by that is, just like how he beat David Lemieux, who's a smaller guy coming up in weight, he beat Demetrius Andrade, who's a smaller guy coming up in weight. So that's not the case with Canelo. That's not the case with Dimitri Bivol. And that sure as hell is not the case with Artur Beterbiev. All right? It's also not the case with David Morrell. David Morrell, Cuban School of Boxing and all that stuff or whatever, is a 168-pounder proper. Okay? Now, if he was to fight, for example, Jermell Charlo's not exactly a 168-pound fighter proper. So, we don't know how that would turn out. But the other guys, he didn't stop Caleb Plant, right? That's a 168-pound fighter proper. But Canelo stopped Caleb Plant, right? So what I'm trying to say is that David Benavidez did fantastically against Demetrius Andrade, but at the same time, we have to put it in context. So when they say David Benavidez would beat Dimitri Bivol, I gotta see that, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. If Bivol, we're saying could beat Artur Beterbiev. Beterbiev is strong he's old, but he's strong as hell. Okay? I think Beterbiev is supposed to face Callum Smith. Pretty sure he's gonna stop Callum Smith, but that's another story for another day. Right? There are guys who I'm not going to just throw David Benavidez in there with. I'm not going to throw him in there with Bivol. I don't care what sparring they got. That's sparring. That's not a fight. Okay? And I'm not throwing him in there with Artur Beterbiev. I'm just not doing that. Okay? His fighting style is aggressive fighting style. Beterbiev is not one of them guys you play with. And yes, David Benavidez might have fought a heavyweight in the amateurs, but Beterbiev, a professional, Olympian, medalist, who fought at heavyweight in the amateurs, and is not somebody to play with. He's not, okay, so David Benavidez is big for 168. He's strong. He got power. He can take a shot. But a guy like Artur Beterbiev is on another level of strong. Can take a shot, can dish a shot, and he will be the bigger guy in that ring. He'll be the stronger guy in that ring. Bivol will not be as necessarily the bigger, stronger guy, but his style is such. Well, he might be the bigger, stronger guy because Benavidez has to move up in weight. He has to move up in weight. And Bivol has acclimatized to 175. He's not the same guy that David Benavidez sparred some years ago. So I wouldn't, So all I'm saying is I would try to leave those guys out of the equation. Now, when it comes to Canelo, I still double down on the fact that Canelo would beat David Benavidez. I double down on that. People are saying Canelo would get beat. He should stay away from David Benavidez. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Because even though David does sometimes counter with combinations and so on, Canelo's not going to give him those combinations. Canelo is going to pot shot him. Canelo is going to... David Benavidez is still hittable. You saw Demetrius Andrade hit him a couple of times. So I think that Canelo is a totally different kettle of fish. Plus, Canelo's been at 175 twice. Okay, David Benavidez doesn't have the footwork of a Dimitri Bivol. He's much a much he has quickness and all of that, and he leads with either hand and stuff like that. I saw that before. I haven't really seen anything from him in this fight that tells me his style is going to change if Canelo's there. Um, I also don't believe that his size will be a factor in all those fights. You know, I think that Canelo is a tricky guy, and he's got tight defense. Bevo's the same thing. They got tight defense, you know. Now, Beterbiev might get hit, but he's tough as hell, you know. So, I don't know. Those three I just mentioned. Now, David Morrell, he doesn't have the experience, but he's Cuban School of Boxing, just as big, as strong as David Benavidez. I would love to see how that fight would pan out. To me, that's a good fight for David Benavidez, having just beaten Demetrius Andrade, because both guys are going in there for the kill. Both guys have power. You know, maybe David Morrell has more power than David Benavidez. I don't know. But that would be a nice fight. That, to me, is a better fight for David Benavidez than a Canelo fight. But if the Canelo fight comes, that's an opportunity for him to have. But I favor Canelo to win that fight. And because David really mostly fights at mid-range, and he fights on the inside. That's where he really thrives, not on the outside. And Canelo's a mid-range fighter, so it makes for fireworks. It makes for an exciting fight. But it's also a fight in which I see Canelo winning. I see Canelo win. Canelo has too many tricks and wrinkles up his sleeve. And he's not going to let David Benavidez dictate a fight like that, like how he did against Andrade. And he won't crumble like Andrade. Canelo has a hell of a chin. You know, he's very strong. You know, he's got knockout power too. So, you know, Benavidez will have to respect his power. He may be shorter. He may have shorter arms, but that has nothing to do with it. He'll find a way to get to the inside. Plus, David Benavidez likes getting to the inside as well. So, you know, it works out well. So, I mean, it would be an interesting fight. Be a very interesting fight with Canelo versus David. I think Canelo would pull it off in the end. I think he'd pull it off against David Benavidez. And I would love to see it. That's a fight I would love to see. Of course, that would be a huge fight whenever it happens. With respect to... So I don't... You know, a lot of people are saying Canelo's going to duck David Benavidez. He's not going to go for the small... I don't know about that. I know this. I know that if Canelo fights David Benavidez and beats David Benavidez, a lot of people are going to have to review the fact that Canelo is the best Mexican fighter, not only of our generation, but of several generations. Several generations. Because no Mexican fighter has accomplished the kind of accomplishments that Canelo has. You know, none. There's none. So if Canelo beats David Benavidez, that will be huge. Huge. Right? And it looks like David Benavidez is building up his profile, so we will see how things go with that. But I favor Canelo to beat him. And as like I said, I favor Bivol to beat him. I favor I favor even Beterbiev, because the thing with David Benavidez is it's not so much about finesse. Even though he had decent defense, it's not about finesse. It's more about strength and power with him, and the sharpness and the quickness. Not to say that he didn't have beautiful tactics in that he immediately landed the lead right hand on a southpaw, which was really excellent. And it wasn't that he wasn't sharp. It's just that he still gets hit quite a lot and unnecessarily. And that's because he's big and he's strong. You're not going to be able to take the punches of Beterbiev as he mauls you, and he'll, you know, and the Beterbiev don't fight clean. He give you elbow. He don't care. And the inside, he rough, you know, really physically rough. And he's old. That may be the advantage that Benavidez has. But he is, I mean, he's rough. You know what I mean? With Bivol, it's much more pristine. He fights by boxing rules, but his feet are really quick. And the effect of Benavidez' punches against like smaller guys would not be the same against Bivol, I think. No matter how much sparring you had with Bivol, that don't mean nothing. To give him good work, that's good to sharpen him up for the fight, but that doesn't mean you can beat him. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I got to say about that. So I think David Morrell would be a good fight for David Benavidez, in my opinion, if he can't get the Canelo fight next. Because Canelo looks like he's going to be facing, what's the guy's name? A smaller guy as well. But we are really seeing what the points that I'm learning is this. This is what I learned from boxing. Size does matter. So, Terrence Crawford saying he's going to jump up 3 weight classes to face Canelo is ludicrous, in my opinion. 3? Is it 3? Let me see. 154, 160, 168. It's 4 weight classes. That's just ludicrous. You know what I'm saying? That weight class is for a reason. Charlo jumping up 2 weight classes to face Canelo, that was ludicrous, right? Charlo would have gotten his ass knocked out if he just fought Canelo, and he knew that. We've seen who else jump up 2 weight classes like that, and they got beat. So it was Andrade, it was Charlo. Terrence trying to talk about it, and Terrence, that's just ludicrous, bro. You can watch and study Canelo how much you want. That's just not, it's not making no sense. All right. But a Charlo versus him would be a good fight, after the Errol Spence fight. That would be a good fight. So that's what I got. I think David Benavidez, having a good fight with David Morrell, that would be a good fight. That would be a good fight. Again, battle of the undefeateds, battle of 2 champions, even though they're not real champions, they'll be champions anyway. They're not the champion. The champion is Canelo, but we could get to eliminate somebody off of that, and that person would face Canelo. Kind of like King of the Mountain, you know what I mean? So that would be a good fight. Love to see how that goes. But ultimately, in the end, in my opinion, Benavidez, the hype around Benavidez is great, but when we come back down to earth, we realize, okay, he fought a smaller guy. Like he said, he and his dad said, oh, you're a smaller guy, man. You can't, So he fought a smaller guy, but he didn't give the smaller guy a chance to acclimatize to him, to adapt. If the smaller guy had started to move and box and move around the ring, the smaller guy might have had more of an opportunity to outbox him, right? Kind of like with Charlo. He might have made it to the finish line. But in this case, the smaller guy decided to go toe-to-toe with him, and that didn't turn out quite well. So that's all I got for you guys. I know what you need. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Peace.